for Development. My name is Bruno, and I'm the research coordinator for DFD on this project. And basically, the Diaspora Forum, for those who don't know, the organization is a platform of over 30 organizations from Latin America, Africa, and Asia, based here in the Netherlands, having partners here in the Netherlands and in the South, representing over 23 countries on the 3 continents, and including part of Europe. We have a member from Georgia. And so we work with partner organizations based here, and we are multi-level, also what we want to describe as an organization looking at how to work with organizations on various levels, organizations that are single organizations as well as platforms, which has been mentioned as part of the discussions, that some of our members actually represent in themselves are platforms. And so in total, the membership of DFD is over 100 organizations when you look at it more intensive. And they all have different experiences. And so part of our contribution within the thematic learning program on human mobility was aimed at understanding the extent to which the idea of human mobility is integrated in the programs and projects of our members. One of the key elements is that we are trying to depart from the contemporary understanding of what migration and development is, because we think the whole idea of migration and development is a terminology that is sort of being redefined based on the new realities of the contribution of migrants, the transnational experiences of migrants, is sort of questioning the fact of the one directional view of migration, that it's only a movement of south to north. What about south? What about north to south? What about south south? What about north north? What about the Polish coming to the Netherlands? And so on and so forth. So the whole definition of the migration and development nexus is being redefined by the current realities. And so therefore, the DFD's contribution to the thematic learning program is to go beyond what migration and development is to what mobility is. And for us, as mobility is a question of what are the capabilities that are involved in discussing or in enabling the movement of people from the south to the north, and from the north to the south, or the south-south. And that is the first part. The second part is, how does that movement impact livelihood at the local level? And so basically, DFD's contribution within the thematic learning program really sort of brings together most of the key elements within the thematic learning program on human mobility, because our learning question looks at the integration, to what extent is human mobility integrated within the programs and projects of DFD members. It's also, in a way, it's also part of what you want to describe as a multi-stakeholder approach, because we work with the 10 organizations, and the 10 organizations are part of best practices in terms of the experiences in migration and development, and in terms of what we want to examine on human mobility within that. And so one of the key elements we tried to look at in terms of the activities we organized within this project within the last few months. We did mapping study here in the Netherlands to understand the engagement of migrants, in this case the 10 organizations, what sort of activities are they involving in terms of migration and development, what are the kind of activities, what are the capabilities that are involved in them engaging in development work in the South. We looked at as well as what they do in the South. So we organized a mapping exercise as well in the South as well, to look at in all 10 countries. Because when I talked earlier about the multi-level engagements, the transnational engagements of migrants, it's one of a very good example of this. Because you see an example such as Paul, the Latin American platform, as well as the Ethiopian network, Netherlands, Ethiopian Network of Development Cooperation in Netherlands. These are platforms of organizations. And for example, ENOS is made up of 43 organizations, and POL is made up of 12 organizations. And they all work here in the north, and they all work in the south. And this multi-level engagement, they are also members of DFD. What is their engagement? What is the contribution of DFD to that engagement? At the same time, what is ENOS' contribution to its members' project in the south and here in the north? What is Paul's contribution, for example, in the north and in the south? all of these questions are very complex questions that bring on a lot of complexities and responses and very interesting perspectives in terms of migrant engagement. And so one of the things we decided to look at was who are the partners, who are the engaging, who are the stakeholders here in the North and in the South. One of the second things we did within this process was to work with the organizations within the context of research workshops. We had 2 research workshops to sort of bring together the experiences of the various organizations to see what are the interlinkages, what are the connections, and what are the common issues to learn within that context. And lastly, we also sort of carried out sort of a literature review to sort of what are the current thinking within migration and development, and moving from there to the idea of the integration of human mobility. And that was part of our partners, working with the Learning Institute, Maastricht University, as part of the process, the collective learning process within us. And so the project for DFD is sort of really a reflection of the entire idea of the integration of human mobility, the entire idea of what the thematic learning program was. But key other aspects which emerged, of which I could share with you, I could discuss on some of the reflections we have had during part of the workshops, was the idea of what are the key elements in capabilities. And one of the realizations, which is part of sort of the results and the points of reflections I would like to bring, is one, the idea of members understanding the kind of capabilities they require, for example, to engage in development better. Secondly, in understanding their role in the development process in human mobility. And thirdly, to what extent their contribution, to what extent is their contribution in terms of local governance, in terms of engaging with local authorities, and in terms of actually engaging with partners on different levels. And as I mentioned earlier, for us as an organization, as a platform, we see a lot of, we experience these challenges which we talked earlier about, we shared, especially on how do you work with organizations with different experiences on a multi-level and with several diversities. So these are some of the challenges we have as an organization, and some of the things that are reflected in what we do.
I'm very interested whether the outcomes are realized in some way.
Yeah, one of the areas which I mentioned earlier, which I would see as the concrete outcome for the process, is what are the areas of capabilities that members could work on and to improve on. And one of the tools, one of the several tools we are sort of developing at this moment is a sort of a guidebook on mapping diaspora initiatives or development initiatives for policy influencing question. But it's around the area of capabilities that I mentioned earlier about the challenges we face as a network. What could be, what kind of suggestion would you provide to deal with a key challenge, which is that of capacity building, of managing projects?
That's a very interesting question is mentioning about capacity. I personally have two problems with it. We talk about building capacity of people. Are we, in the first place, aware whether these people have capacities or not? What do we mean by capacity? You build things in an empty space. So I hope there's a clean slate, and we probably intend to build something there. Or within this network, is there something within the network already? Then if there's something, then we say, how much is there? And is what is there enough for us to be able to be effective as a platform or as an organization, or do we need something more? Is this something more what we could call the needed capacity to be built, or are we starting from scratch? Because this is also the issue when we talk about capacity building, but we are also talking about what has come as a result of this TLP is that there's knowledge within the community of practice. There's expertise there. All the skills that I can tell you from facilitator's perspective is that within this we had knowledge that was just generated from within.